We've got breaking news from the NFL where the New York Jets are releasing wide receiver Davante Adams. That's the latest from our NFL insider Jonathan Jones. Adams played 11 games with the Jets after being acquired in a trade with the Raiders in October. He finished the season with 85 receptions for 1,063 yards and 8 touchdowns. The Jets have also granted wide receivers Alan Lazard permission to seek a trade as the team moves on from quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Pete Prisco and Leger Douzable joining us now with this breaking news. We were just talking about it. It doesn't seem like this is a huge surprise. Pete, your initial reaction?
No, it's not. And this is a coach and a general manager and, of course, Rick Spielman coming into a place and they're cleaning it out.
Shout out, Rick.
And bringing in their own people in. And so you understand it. They didn't acquire these guys. Plus, Davante Adams isn't a kid anymore. And you want to bring in your own receivers, your own quarterback, your own culture. And I think that's what this is all about. Look, he did some good things late in the season last year. But he is up in the years, cost a lot of money. And when you look at it, you want to bring your own culture in. So I think this is what this move is about.
Yeah, Pete, talk about costing a lot of money. Davante Adams had a $38 million cap hit, and there were rumors that they were trying to trade him. But if you're a team looking to trade for Davante Adams, you're going to have to restructure his deal anyway. So why not just wait until he hits the open market? Because you knew there was no way the Jets were going to keep him with a $38 million cap hit over the next 2 years. So you see the numbers right there, and he's getting up there in age, like Pete said as well. Still very productive, really played really well down the stretch. You saw his first half with the Raiders, or the 3 games with the Raiders and 11 games with the Jets. There was an uptick in production for him as well. And then you see it in most receptions in NFL history in the first 11 seasons. Davante Adams is on that list to let you know how productive he's been. But to Pete's point, he is getting up there in age. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up going now that he's going to be released from the Jets. Is this another scenario where he wants to team up with Aaron Rodgers, or does he just go to a contender to try to win that ring?
Yeah, Leger, let's double down on that and talk about where he could go. To your point, still very productive. We saw the numbers. He is 32 years old, but what teams come to mind that could be a fit, whether it is with Aaron Rodgers or not?
I think going back to his old home at the Green Bay Packers. Now, the interesting thing will be things were kind of rocky when he left there, but we know Christian Watson just suffered a gruesome injury, and there's no telling if he'll be ready for the next season as well. Romeo Doubs, who they like a lot, is there. You know, Dontavian Wicks and Jaden Reed, but why not bring in the old wily vet who's very productive? You know that they have a culture built already up there with Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers, a guy that he played with the Las Vegas Raiders. Josh Jacobs was the focal point of that offense. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I would have said the Washington Commanders before they traded for Deebo Samuel made a lot of sense as well. Him and Scary Terry McLaurin would have been a nice combination. But I think the Green Bay Packers going back home makes a lot of sense for Davante Adams.
What about the Cowboys? I mean, the Cowboys were looking for another receiver to go with CeeDee Lamb, and they traded to go get Mingo, but I don't know if he's the answer. So why not bring in a veteran like Davante Adams? I don't think he's going to cost that much this time around either. I think that the contract's going to be team-friendly. He's a number 2A receiver, maybe 2B receiver now. And so it'll be, when you look at it, I don't think it's going to be a big, giant contract for him. So a good team that needs another receiver like the Cowboys to go with CeeDee Lamb would make some sense.
Based off of that, I want to pull up a list, too, of the receivers that will be available this offseason, because it's quite a hefty list. So you got guys like Davante Adams, who just joined that list, Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen. I mean, these are players that have been around. They're vets in the game. Are you surprised to see this kind of list put together at this point in the offseason?
No, because Chris Godwin's coming off an injury. He'll probably go back to the Bucs. Amari Cooper, I don't think that unless he comes on a team-friendly deal, he's not going back to Buffalo. De'Ami Brown is an interesting one because he came on late in the season and can run. Stephon Diggs coming off an injury, major injury. Darius Slayton is a guy you hear around the league getting some traction because he has the speed and teams are looking for speed. Brown's coming off an injury. Keenan Allen's an old guy. You know, it's cruel. It really is cruel because you say these guys are old and they're 31 and 32 years old, but that's the reality of the NFL, particularly if you're a wide receiver. You're old.
Yeah, to your point, Chris, if not for the injury to Chris Godwin, he would be the clear-cut favorite on that list. But Davante Adams, you would have to say, is probably 1B or 2A, as Pete was saying. And I want to go back to something you said earlier, Pete. And I think that's something that Davante Adams has to take a look in the mirror and talk to himself about. Is he considered a true number one? going forward? Is he going to be okay being the Robin to somebody's Batman? I think these are questions that he needs to ask himself, because that was an issue in New York with Garrett Wilson. People were wondering with the target shares, why was Davante Adams getting so much in an uptick towards the back end of the season when Garrett Wilson was getting those targets in the beginning of the year? So you talk about him going to a place like the Dallas Cowboys, knowing that CeeDee Lamb is a true number one. Is he going to be cool being that Robin to his Batman? I think that's a question that Davante Adams has to ask himself.
Well, Robin's going to have to learn that he's going to get Robin money, and he is a Robin now, and he's not a Batman. So I don't think that's a decision he's going to be making. He's not a number one wide receiver anymore. He's a number two.
Let's circle back to the Jets, because it's a new regime, right? And you mentioned it, Aaron Glenn. They're coming in, they're cleaning house, and they want a lot of new there. So what direction do you think they go with Garrett Wilson at the wide receiver position, Pete?
Well, one thing, he was grumbling about not getting the football last year, so you got to make him the focal point of the offense, and I think they will. I think they'll be smart enough to do that. He's the guy. He was the number one receiver last year on that team. Should have been focused more, the focal point of the offense even more. But remember, Rodgers came in. He's buddies with Adams. They love each other. I mean, the first day he was at his house. Come on, give me a break. So you weren't going to get the target share that you wanted. Now you got to feature him. He's got to become the guy, and I think he has the talent to become one of those elite receivers. So I think that's ultimately what they do.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Allen Lazard, too, because I think this would be a similar scenario to Davante Adams. I don't know how many teams are going to be willing to trade for him, because it's been well documented, the drops he's had with the New York Jets. He's had a real issue with concentration drops. So I could see the Jets flirting to try to get maybe something for him, a 6th or 7th round. But ultimately, I believe this will be the same thing that happened to Davante Adams, where they end up releasing him, and then they'll have to find a number two with Garrett Wilson. To Pete's point, Garrett Wilson is your true number one guy. You have to feature this guy. He needs as many touches as possible, because the kid can be magical with the balls in his hands. I just go back to that Buffalo game when they were getting beat down by the Buffalo Bills, and then Tyrod Taylor comes in the game, and he made it a point to get the ball to Garrett Wilson. He goes up and one-hands it in the red zone, down, a lot of points to the Buffalo Bills. You can go to earlier in the offseason on that Monday Night Football game where he catches that one-handed in the back of the end zone and just gets his thigh barely down to get the touchdown. I believe it was versus the Houston Texans, and that was a Thursday night game. So Garrett Wilson is magical with the ball in his hands. To Pete's point, they need to feature him as a true number one.
By the way, I just got a call. Somebody's offering a large turkey sandwich from Jersey Mike's for Allen Lazard. No bacon.
You gotta chill.
No bacon. They will not throw any bacon on top of that sandwich because he's not worth it. So large turkey for Allen Lazard. If anybody wants
to chill.
Nice to know your feelings on that situation.
Bag of chips too?
No bag of chips.
Just the turkey. I mean, Leger's trying to drum up interest for Allen Lazard for his Jets. I mean, what do you want for Spielman?
Hey man, we try to get a trade pick, man. 6th, 7th round.
You ain't getting
Allen Lazard. Big receiver. He can help you out in the red zone.
Come on.
These two, oh goodness. Pete Prisco, Leger Douzable, thanks for joining us here with this breaking news on HQ. The New York Jets releasing wide receiver Davante Adams. You best believe we're going to be talking about this and all other moves in the NFL and across sports on CBS Sports HQ. We have all the news, highlights, and scores that you can want and need. Don't go anywhere.